As royal superstars William and Kate prepare to head down under, so begins a new conversation about our national identity. To whom should you pledge allegiance, Australia or the Queen?
That'll be the topic at a forum at the University of Sydney tonight. To tell us more, we're joined by the National Director of the Australian Republican Movement, David Morris. David, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well. Let me get this straight. You're launching a campaign to kickstart the Republican movement just as we have the visit of the most popular royals anywhere in the world. What are you smoking at the ARM?
Oh, we relaunched the Australian Republican Movement a few months ago, actually, last year, with the great support of many leaders around the country, Malcolm Turnbull and Wayne Swan, but most importantly, thousands and thousands of Australians coming back and saying it's time to start this conversation again. And, you know, Australians today in 2014 really do have a very strong sense of national identity. I think we're over these debates about, you know, are we fully independent or aren't we, or, you know, should we be Australian or should we be British? We're Australian and we're proud of it, and we can have a friendly, you know, equal relationship with the United Kingdom, and that's the way forward, we believe. It'll be a great day when we can have one of us, an Australian head of state, to welcome the British royal visitors whenever they come, and we don't have to have this silly us versus them debate.
But you say that, and you're correct about all the polls suggesting that Australians do favour a locally born head of state, but all this is going to get lost in the wash, isn't it, David, with William, Kate, Prince George coming out to scenes of mass adulation?
Well, of course. I mean, the British royal family are big celebrities. They're probably the world's greatest celebrities in many respects, and they tour the world. They visited many of the republics in the Commonwealth over the last year, and of course they're warmly welcomed in republics the world over. And I suppose that's all we're saying, is that, you know, yes, there'll be a big media frenzy when the British royals visit Australia, but that's a very different thing from saying that, you know, it's actually time for us to have a discussion about resolving our nationhood, and that's something we need to resolve over the next few years, because Australians do want our next head of state to be someone who can represent us, our identity, our values as an egalitarian, you know, equal opportunity, free society, and a country that wants to have a mature, equal relationship with the UK. We're not colonial anymore, and so let's resolve this in a respectful way. Let's not make it an us versus them thing, but let's actually resolve our future as a nation.
And at the same time, you got a Prime Minister who is very fond of the royals. In fact, Tony Abbott helped run the anti-Republican campaign back in the late 1990s. He made the Prime Minister for some time. So realistically, what chances have you got of getting bipartisan political support for an Australian Republic?
Well, there's only one side of this debate that does have bipartisan support. The Republic has support across all political parties. The monarchy only has support on one end of the political spectrum. So the monarchy just can't unite Australians anymore. The Republic does have very broad support, but it's true, Mr Abbott, of course, has his view, and we know where he stands. Interestingly, when he broke the recent convention of Prime Ministers swearing allegiance to Australia and its people, when he swore allegiance to the Queen, we ran a poll through UMR, a very respected polling agency, and that poll found that only 20% of Australians supported Mr Abbott in swearing allegiance to the Queen. 70% of Australians believed that our Prime Minister should be swearing allegiance to us, to the Australian people. And so we think that actually says it all, basically. We know and we respect Mr Abbott's position. That's his personal view, but we believe the view of Australians needs to be heard, and certainly we should have freedom of choice about our next head of state.
The thing that let the Republican movement down back in the late 90s at that referendum, of course, was debate over the model to select an Australian president. What makes you certain, David, that we are any closer to getting unanimity on that?
Well, I don't think you will get unanimity on that. We're a democracy, and so the great thing about a democracy is that people will have different views. Back in '99, it was a flawed approach. I think in retrospect, it's very easy for us to see. I think at the time there was a lot of enthusiasm and there was very strong support for a republic, and so people were confident leading into that it would be successful. The Queen herself said, you know, this is up to Australians to decide, and that she would respect our decision. And we still stand by that it is up to Australians to decide, but we do need next time to get the process right, and so we need to allow all those voices to be heard. We need to actually have a big discussion amongst Australians, and then freedom of choice between what are the options. Let's put those options to the Australian people and let the Australian people decide.
OK, David, so it's safe to assume you won't be amongst those lining the streets of Sydney to wave to Kate and William and Prince George next month.
Well, as I say, I do think that it will be a great day when actually all Australians can unite behind an Australian head of state and welcome visitors from Britain as equals. We're not colonial subjects any longer. We would welcome them warmly as a republic, and they will visit us just as they visit the republics of the Commonwealth. And that will be a much better relationship for Australia to have with the United Kingdom. It will give us much better standing in the world as a nation that's confident of itself and, happy to warmly welcome visitors from overseas. They're visitors and they represent another country, and a country with which we have very warm, close relations.
David, thank you very much for putting your views.
Thank you, Michael.
David Morris from the Australian Republican Movement talking to us from Sydney there.